How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto sought revenge for Whirlpool Nation and built a harem in Avatar, Part 1. Huge shout out to fan writer 10101 for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. The nation of Whirlpool Islands was the most isolated place in the whole world. It was isolated due to the fact that no one from there could bend. It was because of their inability to bend that led to their isolation from the rest of the world. People talked about legends of how the sprites crushed all the island nation's people to never bend, and as a result people stopped going there, even traders. The Avatar himself never went to Whirlpool Island Nation. However, the Whirlpool people were blessed with two things: their minds and ability to manifest golden chains. The Whirlpool people were blessed with minds that created machines far ahead of their times, technology that the other nations could even dream of. Their ability to control gold chains were the most dangerous of all, as it had the ability to suck away their opponent's energy, which could be very dangerous to benders. However, even with all their advancements, they would never be able to share it with the world, as the Avatar sealed their nation away. They were stuck on their islands, never to interact with other nations. Only from the outside could their nation be unsealed. That was the turning point. The people of Whirlpool were enraged that the Avatar, the one who kept balance, dare seal them away. Thus the seeds of hatred and the outcry for vengeance were placed, and for 300 they waited, they endured, they advanced, they trained, and waited for the day till a foolish outsider, as they called others, to unseal them, and when they were free they would carry out their crusade of vengeance. That day would come when the new Avatar would reawaken. Land of Whirlpools, Uzushiogakure, capital of Whirlpool Island. Uzushiogakure was the capital of the Whirlpool Islands. It was also the seat of the royal family who controlled and ruled over Whirlpool Islands, the Uzumakis. The Uzumakis were one of the first, and the oldest family to live on Whirlpool Islands, and as a result they invested into the land. This naturally led them to gain more political power, thus making them the rulers of the many islands. Unlike other rulers, the Uzumakis were kind and easygoing people. In fact, most of the Uzumakis loved pranking. A boy sat on his chair overlooking his table, which was littered with maps. He had blood-red hair, violet eyes, and fair skin. This was Naruto Uzumaki, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Uzumaki, the current rulers of Whirlpool Island. Naruto was a very interesting boy for his age. Ever since he was 4 he was always learning, and when he reached the age of 8 he started his training in his golden chains, and others such as political and educational. He was a very bright boy, with an intelligent mind and a furious temper to go along with, like his mother. When he reached 12 he started his military training regarding military strategy, tactics, and firearms training. Whirlpool had a very unique military. For starters, everyone had to serve in the military for at least 2 years. From there you would be put in reserves and be called upon in the defense of the homeland. Unlike other nations, they had discovered gunpowder 200 years ago, and as such their firearms have developed greatly. But the navy was their pride and joy. Their fleets consisted of massive metal ships with massive guns ranging from 6 inches to 18 inches. Some of their ships were designed to be fast for hit and run operations, while others slow, with massive cannons with enough firepower to level the Fire Nation. Some were considered the jack of all trades with good enough speed and good enough firepower. Then there were the so-called flat tops. These had a command structure in the middle to the side while having a flat deck for their flying terrors called airplanes. For now their fleets remained in anchor since there really was no mission. When he was 16 he completed his training and began draw many plans of attack against the outsiders when his nation was unsealed. Every generation of Uzumaki did this, and when they died out their children carried on their tradition. Life was for him. When he was 4 his father passed away. His mother, who was pregnant at the time with his sister, grew depressed, but pulled through thanks to him. When his sister, Mito, was born a few months after his father's death, Naruto swore that he would protect her. He would be damned if anyone hurts his sister. His sister had just begun her studies since she herself was 12. I don't even know if these maps will even be useful. I mean, it's been 300 years, surely new nations would have raised, right? Naruto asked himself, but then all of a sudden he felt a chill, and right at that moment one of his guards rushed in. Lord Naruto, your mother, Lady Kushina, has summoned you. the guard said. Naruto nodded and got up. I wonder what mother wants, he mumbled. It was then he was tackled by his sister. Brother! Where have you been? I haven't seen you in days, Mito said. Naruto chuckled. His sister was always hyperactive. Calm down, Mito. You know I was in my office most of the time, you could have seen me any time, Naruto said as he walked to meet his mother. Mito was walking beside him. I know that, but you're always working when you are in the office, Mito answered. Naruto ruffled her hair. When you have the same job as me, you'll understand, Naruto said as he opened the door to the throne room, which right now was filled with officers from different branches of the military. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What is going on here? Naruto asked. Everyone looked towards him. The officers all bowed to their prince and princess. Kushina just smiled. Well, you see, son, now is the time, she said, and Naruto gasped. His eyes widened. Now was the time. Some fool on the outside had unsealed their nation. Now was the time for them to strike. So someone unsealed us? Naruto asked. To which she nodded and gestured her hand, and an officer from the Air Force branch walked up. Yes, Lord Naruto, and as to who out scout planes report of metal ships with coal engines heading towards us. Their insignia appears to be that of the Fire Nation. An armada of at least 200 ships is heading our way. But their ships are far too small and pose no threat to our superior vessels, and they also have no anti-air defenses, which means that the outsiders are still lacking in technology, the officer said before stepping back. So I assume you want to lead our fleets into battle? Naruto asked. His mother nodded. Should I leave survivors? Naruto asked. No, kill them all. Not a single one of their ships must escape. His mother answered. Naruto nodded. All right, I want all vessels to be prepared for battle and all planes on standby as well. I want all land divisions to prep for landing operations that will take place once this battle is over. Well, don't just stand there, move, Naruto said as he left the room. The officers soon filled out to carry out their commander's order. Mother, is brother really going to war? Mito asked her mother. Yes, but don't worry, your brother is a strong boy after all, he is my son, Kushina said as she smiled. Everyone in the nation was cheering. 300 years off being isolated and sealed away, they now have their chance of vengeance. Soon people saw as their two fleets departed from port with one left at port to protection. They didn't have the resources to build a fourth fleet, but that would no longer be an issue. With the new territories they were bound to capture, they would have all the resources in the world they needed. Fire Nation flagship. The admiral of massive armada of the Fire Nation viewed out from the bridge. He grew a smile. They had over 200 ships that were fully loaded with troops, supplies, and other resources they needed. Sir, are you sure this was a wish? This second in command asked. Yes, it is. With the old Whirlpool Islands under our control, we can secure the southern water tribes. Not only that, but the Whirlpool Island will be a great secret shipyard since very few know of its existence, the commander replied. This invasion was his idea, but before he could even think of doing such a thing, he needed the Fire Lord approval. Many such as Iroh voiced their opinion, stating that the Whirlpool Nation should remain sealed away, but the Fire Lord approved of the invasion. It took them 2 years to find the key to unseal the Whirlpool Islands, and now they were steamed towards it. I don't see why you are so afraid. I don't think that being isolated could help them. Those people who are weaker than the southern water tribes, I mean. He couldn't finish his sentence because one of his ship just went up in flames. All there was left was floating metal and wood. What just happened? He asked, enraged that he had already lost a ship. No sooner did he say that more ships started to explode. High above the sky, above the Fire Nation armada, a Kawanishi H-8K, I will be using the Imperial Japanese Navy for the Navy, was flying above the Fire Nation fleet. Target hit. It appears they are not aware who's attacking them, the radio men of the crew said. Don't blame them, after all, our battleships got more range than theirs, a gunner replied. H-8K, we are requesting more targets, a voice came from the radio. Roger that, Nagato, sending the next set of targets, the radio man said as he sent the Nagato-class battleship, all the while seeing the Fire Nation lose one ship after another. Then they started to lose more. Soon another voice came through the radio. "This is Battleship Matsu, we are requesting targets as well," the captain stated. "Roger that, sending targets," the radio man said as he sent another set of targets. The Fire Nation's armada was in flames. Ships were being blown apart, and men were trying to save their lives, however their armor prevented them from swimming and drowned. Those who didn't have their armor were holding on to any floating wood or metal. They thought they were safe, they were wrong. Soon some strange sounds filled the air. The survivors looked around to find what was making it, and they spotted many larger metal birds. Some thought the birds would save them, but it was not meant to be. The large metal birds started to fire upon them with some strange objects. Whatever they were ripping the men in the water apart. "Come around for another strafing run, leave none of them alive," the lead fighter said. Said fighter was a pure white with the Uzumaki family crest on each wing. This was the Zero fighter. Unmatched in speed and agility. Soon more Zeros started to strafe the enemy troops in the water. A few hours later the sea was ready and black with floating bodies everywhere. It was a massacre. The armada of 200 Fire Nation ships, wiped out like child's play. Surrout Recon plane reports that all enemy ships are destroyed. The fighters have also confirmed that all enemy troops are dead. A total victory, sir, a officer reported to his captain. Good, but this is only just the beginning. Soon the world shall be united under one banner, and that will be the banner of the Whirlpool Nation, the captain said as he viewed outside the bridge of his ship to see two whole fleets moving past them. With them were troop transports, carriers, destroyers, cruisers, and most of all battleships. Now was the time for them to venture out of their island, to explore, to expand, to exploit, and to exterminate. We are about to embark upon the Great Crusade, towards which our people have waited for many years. The eyes of our nation are upon us. Let us make sure we not fail them, the captain said, and soon the battleship falls into formation along with the whole fleet. Their time was now. The South Pole, home to the Southern Water Tribe, sister of the Northern Water Tribe. The two poles are always covered in ice and snow, but people still lived on as if it were normal for them. However, what people did not know was that both poles had massive reservoirs of oil. Now, to any other nation, oil isn't a big deal yet, save for the Fire Nation, but even to them it is not necessary. For the Whirlpool Nation, however, it is a different story. Their entire military runs on oil. They were lucky that their island nation had massive oil reservoirs itself, and they had stocked up on lots of oil since most of the vessels didn't need it due to them staying at port for a very long time. Now, however, it was different. They were going to wage war, and they were going to need oil sooner or later, and so the first target was chosen, the South Pole. There was also another reason why they wanted to take the South Pole. Long before them being sealed away by the Avatar, the South Pole was part of the Whirlpool Nation. It was part of their homeland. The North Pole Water Tribe wanted to expand, but if they tried, then they would have to fight the Fire Nation or the Earth Kingdom, and the air nomads lived up high, so who else to attack than people who couldn't even bend? It was a massacre. Towns and villages were destroyed and Water Tribe towns and villages built in their place. Built upon their sacrifice. It didn't help that the other nations helped the North drive out or outright kill the Whirlpool natives. The Whirlpool Island were located south of the Fire Nation and west of the Southern Air Temple. A great place to build a naval base. Sir, the Second Fleet has reached the Southern Air Temple, but after scouting the area it seems that all the air benders there are dead, a soldier reported. Naruto raised an eyebrow. So they're dead? What of the other temple? What did our reconnaissance recon have to say about them? Naruto asked. Same thing, sir, just a bunch of bones and skeletons, the soldier replied. This got Naruto thinking. If the air nomads were wiped out, that meant that Whirlpool reigned supreme in the sky. Tell the Second Fleet to patrol around Whale Tail Island. However, they are not be spotted. Have them conduct aerial reconnaissance. If I were the enemy commander, I would turn Whale Tail Island into an outpost and a small naval base, Naruto ordered, and the soldier was off to relay the command. Then all of a sudden he spotted a white beam shooting straight up into the sky. What in the world was that? Naruto asked. I don't know, sir, replied Observation Officer. Plot a course to the South Water Tribe village. Use the images we got from our reconnaissance, Naruto ordered, and soon his fleet steamed forward. Southern Water Tribe village. Katara was just having another normal day with her brother Sokka. However, that all changed. LOL, I just wanted to say that, when they found a boy in an iceberg. The boy's name was Aang, an airbender, with some weird arrow tattoos on his forehead, legs, and arms. The boy made them all go penguin sliding. However, they stumbled on an old Fire Nation ship. Aang, being the child he is, wanted to explore it. Much to Sokka's demise, it was while searching through the ship that Aang accidentally activated a trap which sent a flare high up in the sky. Sokka chewed them out for being too careless, and told them to head back to the village. It was later revealed that Aang was indeed the Avatar. Which leads us to where we are now. Where is the Avatar? I know you are hiding him, a young boy with a scare on the left side of his face said. This was Zuko, exiled princess of the Fire Nation, and during his time of exile with his uncle he has been hunting the Avatar. He had seen the Fire Nation flare and soon mapped a course to the point of its origin. He grabbed an old woman. He's about this old. Master of all four elements, Zuko stated, but got no answer. In his rage he threw a stream of fire towards the village people, but the fire was put out by air bending. Enough! I am the Avatar, Aang said. Zuko looked at him confused. You are the Avatar? You're just a child, Zuko said. Aang's eyebrow twitched. Who you calling child, firecracker? Aang fired back. This pissed on Zuko. He was about to launch a fireball when they all heard a thunder's echo, which was followed by a screeching sound which got closer and closer and was soon followed up by an explosion. The ice around the village was completely destroyed and water quickly started to take its place. Everyone ran out of the village to more stable ground. They started to look where the echo came from and spotted a massive megastructure headed towards them. It was a ship. Many thought it was another Fire Nation ship, but the firebenders knew it wasn't. Their nation had nothing like that. Soon 2 more ships came into view, but these were different. They didn't have the big guns like the first one did, and it looked like it had many cranes on it. They saw them lowering many small crafts into the water, which too began heading towards them. Aang, we have to leave now, Katara said. She had a bad feeling about what was to come. Aang nodded. Sokka, come on, Katara said. Sokka was going to protest, but one look from his sister shut him up. They made their way to Appa, Aang's flying bison, and flew off. Zuko noticed them fly away and would have given chase, but his uncle, Iroh, told him to retreat. Quickly boarding their ship, they made their retreat the opposite way of the incoming unknown fleet. Iroh glanced back and his eyes widened. He knew the flag those ships were flying. This was not good. Once both the Avatar and the firebenders were gone, the crafts reached the shore and out came men wearing winter cloths with some weird weapons. They had long white trench coats, with complete black steel-toed boots, and iron helmets. Just look up WW2 German winter uniform. The men soon surrounded the villagers with their weapons pointed at them. Soon a boy 16 years of age walked up. They had never seen hair so red like his. So this is what's left of the Southern Water Tribe? Not like it matters. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, heir to the Uzumaki clan, rulers of Whirlpool Island, and I hereby reclaim the South Pole as it belonged to my people long ago. You all can either leave to your Northern Water Tribe brethrens, or stay and live under the Whirlpool rule. If you chose to stay, then you will forfeit your identity as the Southern Water Tribe, he stated. Many of them were shocked to hear that they would either have to leave or stay. To leave would mean to leave their homeland, but to stay would mean that they give up the right to call themselves as the Southern Water Tribe. They had no choice but to stay. They didn't have ships that could travel oceans. Naruto looked over them and nodded. Very well, as of this day the Southern Water Tribe is dead, and you are all now part of the Whirlpool Nation. Men, give them food and build them shelter, Naruto said as he started to walk away. Wait, why help us? You are our conqueror, an old woman asked. Naruto turned around. Why would I harm you? You are not soldiers. You are women and children. That does not mean I don't treat women equally. They too can be soldiers, but you are not. I also do not like killing of the weak and innocent. You are now part of the Whirlpool Nation and as a result its citizen, therefore this is not an occupation force, but merely a force to defend the South Pole. With that, Naruto walked away. Much of the people were shocked. They weren't going to be beaten or killed, but rather helped. Was this a good thing or a bad thing? Soon soldiers started to build makeshift shelters and started to disturb food. So you are going to win their hearts and mind? A figure said. He had red hair just like him and appeared to be in his 30s. Uncle, you know full well that I don't like needless bloodshed. I might want to bring the world under Whirlpool rule, but I will do so in a peaceful way. I will not kill innocent civilians. Soldiers, however, are a different story. I can kill them because they knew what they would face when they signed up to join their military. Naruto said as he walked up to a makeshift tent. His uncle smiled. You would be a great ruler once you take the throne from your mother, his uncle said. I have been told that, but I hope that does not happen for a long time. I don't want to be tied behind a desk and doing paperwork, Naruto said with a chuckle. Anyways, any news from the homeland, Uncle Kenshin? Naruto asked his uncle. Well, they are sending some builders and some citizen to the South Pole to start building it up to our standards. Also, the oil underneath the ice is still there, and it appears there's more than we thought. By our calculations, there should be enough for at least 120 years. That's if we don't produce more ships, planes, tanks, and all that good stuff. Which you and me both know is not gonna happen. The eggheads back home have already started to plan for Fourth Fleet, Kenshin said while chuckling at the last part. Naruto rolled his eyes. Anyways, I got reports stating that Whale Tail Island is being used as a military port. So I will be taking my flagship with a carrier, 4 cruisers and 2 destroyers to meet up with the Second Fleet. I am leaving the rest of the fleet here under your command until I say so. Oh, and you are now the governor of the South Pole, Naruto said as he started to board the flagship. Kenshin nodded. Don't worry, once you return, South Pole will be totally different, Kenshin said with a thumbs up. And uncle, don't mess this up. I don't want mother to be angry. Last time you pissed her off, she chased you around the whole city with a sword, Naruto said. Kenshin chuckled. Well, that's my sis for Waichi, he said. Naruto nodded and soon the ship started to steam towards the Whale Tail Island. With Aang. What is the world was that? Sakura asked. He had never seen anything like that. I don't know, but I hope everyone's safe. I am afraid that our people are now part of this war again, Katara said. Aang looked back. What war? Aang asked. Both of them looked at him like he's crazy. Aang, how long were you in that iceberg? Katara asked. Aang scratched his head. I don't know, like a month or 2, he said. No, Aang, I think you were in there far longer than you think. You see, 100 years ago the Fire Nation waged war on the world, and that is still going on to this day, Katara said. Aang was shocked. No way! I have friends in the Fire Nation, Aang protested. Aang, I think you were in the iceberg for 100 years, and you are the Avatar, who also vanished 100 years ago, Katara said, shocking him even more. He looked over the horizon and started to think. He had abandoned the world 100 years ago. A mistake on his part, but he was the Avatar and Avatars don't make mistakes. If only he knew that the Avatar does make mistakes, and the biggest mistake the Avatar made was 300 years ago. Now that same mistake has returned. Aang did not believe that the Fire Nation has been waging for the last 100 years. So to find out what happened, he was heading to the Southern Air Temple Vyapa. Trust me, guys. There's gonna be tons of airbenders there, Aang said. Aang, the world hasn't seen an airbender for over 100 years, Katara said with sad look. Finding out that your people are all but dead is kind of depressing. Just because people haven't seen one does not mean they're all dead, Aang fired back with a cheerful look. Katara sighed. Aang, the Fire Nation is ruthless. They killed my mother. What makes you think that they didn't do the same to your people? Katara asked. Katara, you don't understand. The only way to an air temple is by a flying bison, Aang explained. Soon the air temple came into view. Hey look guys! It's the Southern Air Temple, Aang stated with joy in his voice. Wow! Katara was awed by the sight of the air temple on top of a mountain and ascending high up into the sky and through the Kud. It was as if it reached the heavens itself. We are home, buddy, we are home, Aang said to Appa with a nostalgic look. Soon they landed in a small clearing and started to make their way up on a cliff-side pass. Aang ran ahead of them to look around for any airbenders, but found none. There weren't even any flying bisons. Katara and Sokka soon caught up to him. What's wrong? Katara asked. Aang sighed. This place, it's so dead. It used to be filled with monks, bisons, and lemurs. Aang answered and sighed. He was depressed at the fact that there was no one here. No airbenders. Sokka was going to say something, but was cut off by someone else's voice. Look at this place. It's like a ghost town. I hear all the other air temples are in the same state, the voice said, freaked out by the empty temple. Well, why each give it a rest? We are supposed to find anything valuable, another annoyed voice said. What could we possibly find here? I mean, look at this place. The Fire Nation killed all the airbenders from the information we gathered, the first voice stated. Aang and his group peeked over the bushes and saw two men in some strange gear. Well, if we don't find anything valuable, then we survey the area, a tall man with blonde hair said. He was really getting annoyed by his comrade asking question and questioning their actions or orders. Survey? For what? He asked. Truthful, he slept while briefing. The blonde man face-palmed. You slept in the briefing room, didn't you? He said. His partner nervously chuckled. Well, as to why we are surveying is because to see if this place is good a spot for an airfield, the blonde man explained. Wait, but if we do that, then won't we have to level this place? His partner asked. You don't say, the blonde man said with a blank look. Anyways, we have to head back and make a report, he said as they both started to walk away. Aang and his group followed them. The two men stopped at a small machine with two wings and a tail. The blonde man got in the front seat, while the other in the rear. And for God's sakes, don't fire at every damn bird you see, the blonde man said as he started up the machine. The machine started to move slowly and gained speed as it went, and soon it started to fly. A few minutes the machine vanished into the clouds. Aang was shocked to hear that all airbenders were dead. Not just here, but even the other air temples. Katara was trying to cheer him up and Sokka was trying to figure who those people were. They weren't from the Fire Nation, that was for sure. Could those be the same people when we were attacked by the Fire Nation? He thought. If so, then what were they up to? With Naruto. Naruto overlooking the report he had just gotten and some aerial images from the reconnaissance aircraft. The pictures showed a large Fire Nation naval base and a few dry docks. The base wasn't massive nor was it small, it was just medium. However, the most strangest picture was that of a small camp a few miles away from the base. At first he dismissed it as a small village, however after looking closely he noticed that the camp protected by fences and had guard towers all around it. He thought that it might have been a secondary HQ, and if it was, then he would need to have boots on ground to secure it. Lieutenant, get me Fleet Admiral Akira, Naruto ordered. The lieutenant saluted and went off to get the admiral. A few hours later, Admiral Akira walked in. Akira was a tall man in his late 20s with silver hair and blue eyes. Ah, Prince Naruto, what do you need of me? Akira asked. Naruto rolled his eyes. Come on, Akira, I am a fleet admiral too, so call me Admiral, none of that prince stuff. I don't like it when people are formal with me, Naruto said, annoyed that they still call him prince even though didn't like it. Akira chuckled. As you say, Prince Naruto, the admiral joked. Naruto grunted at the joke. Anyways, we need to plan an attack on the enemy naval base at Whaletail Island, and we also need to have boots on ground to capture their secondary HQ or whatever the hell that camp is, Naruto explained as Akira looked over the images and reports. Yes, I think we should launch an air raid. I would say send in a couple of dive bombers and torpedo bombers. It is also good that there is only one entrance in and out of the harbor, Akira stated as he drew up a plan. Naruto nodded. Yes, that is a good plan of attack. After all the enemy ships have been destroyed, we can send in our troops to capture the enemy camp. It might have some good intelligence. Also, I will be going too, Naruto said with determination in his eyes. Lead from the front, eh? Akira asked. Naruto nodded. Well, I'd best be going back to my flagship. I'll get our fighters to start preparing for the attack. We strike at dawn, Akira as we walked out the door. 10 hours later. It was all quiet and still dark around the Fire Nation base on Whirlpool Island, but the decks on carriers Shinano and Shokaku were buzzing with activity. Men were going around loading planes up and some were double-checking their equipment. Soon the sun's light began to appear. It was dawn. Clear the flight deck! The planes are about to launch! An officer yelled as men ran from the flight deck to let the planes take off. One by one the planes took off towards the sky. They circled around the carriers to wait for the rest to take off. Soon all planes were in the sky. 60 dive bombers and 90 torpedo bombers were making their way to unleash hell on the still sleeping Fire Nation base. Fire Nation base. A soldier walked out of his tent ready to begin his duty for the day. It was a peaceful day like any other. The birds were singing, the waves silently crashed along the shore, and the smell of dawn was in the air. However, all of that was broken when he heard some strange sound coming from the sky. He looked up to see metal birds flying over the base. He saw one diving straight at him, but pulled up. He raised an eyebrow. What was that all about? However, his thoughts were broken when the tent behind him blew up in pieces. Soon there were explosions everywhere. Metal birds were dropping small bombs upon their tents and other structures. Some of them were carrying long tubes underneath them which were dropped into the water and rammed into their ships, causing them to go up in flames. It was Cho's at its finest. Sailors who tried to swim to the shore were cut down by strafing runs. One by one the ships went in flames, soldiers were on fire, which was ironic since they were the masters of fire bending. Confirming 56 enemy vessels destroyed, 32 beyond rapier, and 3 damaged. Enemy barracks are also destroyed with many dead and a few wounded. A recon plane which was flying low radioed. Soon smaller crafts were spotted heading towards the beach. All right, listen up, I want Group 1 to secure the naval base while me and Group 2 head towards the enemy camp. They might have been alerted by the air raid, so expect some form of resistance, Naruto explained to his men. Everyone was nervous, to be frank. This was after all their first real mission apart from the training they received, but like the old saying goes, no amount of training can prepare you for war. Soon the ramps of the landing crafts opened and soldiers rushed out. There were about 200 men in total. The first 100 would be supported by 4 tanks to secure the naval base. The other 100 would be supported by 2 tanks and heading towards the enemy camp. Come on, move it! Get that tank off that craft! A officer yelled. Naruto watched as the Panzer IVs were loaded off the crafts. The Panzer IV was the ideal tank. It was fast, reliable, and had decent armor. They had better tanks than this, but they weren't going to use them for such a small operation. Soon he and his men reached the edge of the forest. All right, I want you all to fan out. Keep your eyes open for any movement. I want those tanks on the dirt road, Naruto ordered. Soon the company of 100 men started to move into the forest. Everyone was nervous. Some were chewing some gum, others sweating. They might have been trained to fight and they might have their advanced technology, but a bender is still a dangerous enemy. Soon they heard the tanks open fire. First was from the main cannon, and the mechanic gun fire. They could hear the screams of their enemies. It was clear that the tanks had done their job well. Soon they approached the camp. All right, let's see what this place really is, Naruto said as he opened the door. He started to walk through the hallways and was being followed by some of his men. Some remained outside to keep guard. As they walked, they could not but have a bad feeling in their stomach. Soon they saw a large door. Open it, Naruto ordered, and when the door opened, the smell of human flesh invaded their nostrils. What the hell is that smell? A soldier asked as he threw up his breakfast. Some of the others as well. Naruto looked on and was horrified at what he saw. Humans we shoved in cages, most were dead, either executed or starved. It was a blood death camp. Look for any saviors and get the dead out of those cages, Naruto ordered. He radioed for more soldiers who upon arriving threw up like the first. Naruto walked through the cages and looked at the markings. These were no ordinary people. These were benders. From water benders to earth benders, hell, they even had some fire benders in here. They were exterminating benders and by the looks of it experimenting on them as well. Help! He heard someone ask for help, but it's tired and forced. He looked around to find the source of the voice. Soon he found a girl of his age in an earth bender cage. He opened the cage and walked up to her. Hey, are you alright? Naruto asked as he lifted her up. She was still alive, and by God, he was not going to let a person who was starved for God knows how long die. Don't worry, you're safe, he said as he led her out. He saw his men pull the dead out of their cages and out of the buildings where they would be identified, if they could be. By the end of the day, they had found 200 dead benders, ranging from water, earth, and a few fire benders. Out of the total, they had found only 60 were alive, but in bad condition. Was this what the world had come to? Had the Avatar also abandoned this world like he had done to his people 300 years ago? It was then when Naruto realized that it wasn't the Avatar who could save the world, no, it was the people themselves who could. So what do we do about these people? A officer asked Naruto. Naruto looked over the people and sighed. For now we need to give them food and give them medical treatment. After that I will let them decide what they want to do, Naruto said tiredly. He knew war was hell, but what he saw in that camp was not war, that was downright inhuman. Did the Fire Nation really fall so low? So we have captured some Fire Nation soldiers, orders? A soldier asked him. Naruto stared at the captured Fire Nation soldiers. On one hand he could execute them and on the other he could obtain some information. Naruto got and approved them. Get every ounce of information you can out of them, torture them if you have to. With that, Naruto walked away from the horrified Fire Nation soldiers. They themselves had never been tortured, but rather they had tortured others. Some were going to run for it, however, before they could golden chains drag them away for interrogation. Naruto was in conflict. Sure, he wanted to bring the world under Whirlpool rule, but what good is an empire if the subjects don't like their rulers? He for one did not like the Avatar and the outsiders, but seeing how badly these people were treated made him rethink about the world and his goals. He still hated the Avatar, but the people of other nations were a whole other subject. His nation was sealed away for 300 years and over time people forgot and erased his people from history. Only few knew who the Whirlpool people were. Should those who had no clue what Whirlpool was pay for the mistakes of their ancestors? Should the youth pay for what happened 300 years ago? Naruto looked down from the hill he was standing at. He saw how his soldiers treated now free benders. They held no hate but rather just the need to help them. It was then he knew what to do. A few hours later all the benders were gathered near the docks of the captured Fire Nation base. Naruto got up on a Panzer IV and stood on its turret. He coughed in his hand to get everyone's attention. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, heir to the Whirlpool Nation. I am also a fleet commander. As you all know, you all were saved by us, the Whirlpool forces, and now that you are all treated and fed, you have the choice of leaving and doing whatever you want. However, I have a proposal for you. You have two choices. You can leave and be free, or you can join the Whirlpool forces as the first benders in Whirlpool's history. If you do, you will be given proper training, food, wages, and a place to stay. Naruto said, shocking many of his soldiers. Akira, who was at first shocked but later smiled. This was Naruto he was talking about, always doing the unexpected. Soldiers of Whirlpool, I know some of you are shocked and even angry by my decision, but look around you. They people don't have a clue who we are. It was their ancestors who we should blame. It is the Avatar who we should blame, not the youth. For should the son bear the sins of his father? Naruto asked. Some of the soldiers started to thinking and started to agree with him. Maybe having benders in their military won't such a bad idea. So who wants to join the Whirlpool Nation to bring about peace to this world, for it will be us who brings peace and balance to the world. Not the Avatar! Naruto yelled, asking the benders to choose. It was all quiet as the benders looked at each other and murmured. Naruto sighed. Perhaps this wasn't a good idea. He looked back to see a hand raised. It was that girl he had saved. Soon more hands went up, and soon all the hands were up. Naruto smiled. Then I welcome you all as the citizens and soldiers of the Whirlpool Nations, Naruto said as he outstretched his arms. Akira could not help but laugh. This was Naruto all right. You are destined for great things, Naruto, he thought before he started walk by the makeshift tent. After the long day of getting everyone settled in, Naruto was tired, so he went back to his tent and was sleeping peacefully in his bed. Well, that was when he woke up and found himself in a place that was totally white. Hello there, my boy. A voice of an old man brought Naruto out of his thoughts. Naruto turned around to find an old man floating in midair. He had 2 horns coming out of his forehead, and had white hair. He was also carrying some kind of staff. Who are you? Naruto asked as he narrowed his eyes. The old man laughed. Why, I am your ancestor, the old man said, shocking Naruto. The old man saw Naruto's shock and sighed. Well, I am the father of the girl who was the first Uzumaki, he corrected. Naruto then nodded. What do you want? Naruto asked. Surely there must be a reason why his ancestor had contacted him. Yes, you see, I am going to tell you the truth, he stated, leaving Naruto confused. What truth? He said, tilting his head. The time before the Avatar, he answered. Naruto's eyes went wide. He was going to be told of a time before the Avatar. You see, before the Avatar even came to be being, there was a different type of energy in people. It was called chakra. I was the one who introduced chakra to the world, hoping that people would better understand each other. It was going so well until the 2 spirits decided that the energy known as chakra be destroyed, and its users either killed or exiled. These spirits were Rava and Vata. Rava was the spirit of peace and light. She wanted our kind gone since she saw us as a threat, so after fusing with the first Avatar, Wan, he drove our people out. But it was Vata, the spirit of chaos and darkness, who killed much of our people before taking away our chakra. After that, both of them fought like fools, with Vata being sealed away, and Rava being what gave the Avatar his power. I was too old and soon passed away back then. As such, even my powers could not stop them, the old man said sadly. However, I had left my spirit back here to ensure that at least one of my descendants have my power, the old man said sagely. And what is this power of yours? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. It is called the Rinnegan. With this you are God amongst mortal men. The Rinnegan even has control over life and death. How I got it I do not know, since it just awakened one day, but I used it to bring peace to the world. A peace that the Avatar shattered, the old man said. So will you take my power and use it to bring about peace once more? He asked Naruto. Yes, I will, and if I have to kill them, so be it, for without war there can be no peace, Naruto said with determination. The old man nodded and put his hand on Naruto's forehead. Naruto jolted out of his bed and almost screamed. The pain going through his eyes were as if someone had dropped small molten needles in them. A few minutes later the pain subsided. Naruto could now feel some kind of power coursing through him. It felt like his golden chains, only it was bigger, like a vast ocean. He picked up a mirror and gasped at what he saw. His eyes were purple with 6 rings in it. He figured that this was the Rinnegan. Soon he was hit with wave after wave of knowledge on how to use it, its powers, abilities, and how to grow stronger. A few minutes more later Naruto relaxed and went back to his bed. What a day today has been! First I get some benders to join my force, then I meet my ancestor, which leads me finding about our history, and then these eyes. With this I can bring peace to the world, and with these eyes I will make sure that the Avatar is never reborn again. He abandoned my people and now he abandoned the world. Wherever he is I will hunt him down, Naruto thought as he drifted to sleep. One thing was for sure, and that was that the Avatar would pay for his sins. One way or another he would pay. Naruto was currently drinking some tea as he watched the supplies being loaded off the ships and onto the island. He and Akira had decided that Whale Tail be their strike base. From Whale Tail they could launch attacks at the Fire Nation Islands. the Earth Kingdom's cities along the coast, and with Whale Tail they would take Kyoshi Island. The island was perfect to be turned into a massive naval port. Why the Fire Nation never did that he would never know. For now he was going to head back home to show his new powers to the rest of his family. Akira, I leave you in charge of my fleet and Whale Tail Island for now, and do get this airfield full operational when I return. With that, Naruto boarded the Douglas C-54 Skymaster, which took off soon after, heading towards Whirlpool, Fire Nation capital. Everyone knew that the Fire Lord was not a happy man and a man who hated failures. He sat there in the war room of his palace with his other advisor and generals. Has there been any word from the fleet we sent south? Ozai asked with anger in his voice. No, my lord, there has been no word from Admiral Zo, a general answered. Ozai narrowed his eyes at the map before him. It has been 2 days since Admiral Zo was charged with the Whirlpool's invasion. Fire Lord Ozai, we have another matter to discuss, a general stated. It better be worth my time, General, Ozai said with cold eyes that could kill a man. Why, yes, sir, we lost contact with Whale Tail Island outpost a day ago. Usually they send a report every day and have never missed a report. We believe that they were attacked, and as such we request you to allow us to send some ships to find out what happened, the general replied. Ozai thought for a minute. Very well, you may investigate. The general released a breath he didn't know he was holding. Soon the doors to the room burst open. Ozai! I warned you not to mess with the seal holding the Whirlpool Nation! A very angry Iroh screamed. And why would I listen to you? Ozai asked his brother. Because the Whirlpool Nation have just taken over the South Pole, and it appears they have weapons that surpass our own. Tell me, did Admiral Zo report back to you? He questioned. Ozai said nothing. Iroh narrowed his eyes. Then we can assume that his fleet was obliterated, Iroh said with a straight face. Everyone was shocked to hear that their armada of 200 ships was obliterated. We don't know that, besides there could have been survivors, Ozai fired back. Iroh sighed at this brother's stupidity. Ozai, we are talking about a nation that was sealed away by force 300 years ago. Do you really thinking that they would just let themselves be conquered after they were unsealed after so long? As for survivors, they could have killed them all for we know. Now you have unleashed a nation with military might that is beyond our time. Iroh explained, getting frustrated by his brother's actions. Seeing that Ozai didn't respond, Iroh walked out and headed for his nephew's ship. Uncle, what is this Whirlpool Nation you were talking about? Zuko asked. Iroh sighed. Zuko, the Whirlpool Nation is a nation that is made up of 4 large islands south of the Fire Nation. The people of this nation could not bend the dash. He was cut off by Zuko. Then they are weak. Father's generals must be getting sloppy if they can't conquer people who cannot bend. Zuko would have said more if he wasn't cut off by his uncle's glare. Zuko, if you think that people who cannot bend are easily conquered, then you are a fool. As I was saying, the people for that nation could not bend, but they made up their lack of bending by their smart minds and their infamous golden chains that could suck away the bender's energy to bend. The avatar of that time, I believe, was Avatar Kyoshi. She sealed them away 300 years ago to keep balance, when in fact she saw the rise of their power and military might, along with political influence and wealth, a danger to the world. I still believe to this day that she made a mistake by sealing them away, and that is because the people of Whirlpool never really bothered with other nations' affairs. I just hope that we can survive the onslaught of their forces. Remember, Zuko, if you ever face the Whirlpool forces, run, for even our own military might is not as strong as theirs. With that, Iroh started to drink tea and play his board game. Zuko, meanwhile, was thinking. If the Whirlpool forces were as strong as his uncle had made it to be, then what did it mean for the world? Over Whirlpool. Naruto looked outside of his window too and saw Yuzushiogakure in all its glory. The city was truly massive, with buildings that reached the sky itself. He saw how the harbor was buzzing with activity, with ships going in and out. Soon the plane landed and he was met with a typical royal escort. He was then escorted to the royal palace. Ah, Naruto-kun, you have returned, and just on time too, Kushina said. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Naruto asked, curious as to what she was referring to. Well, the first of the I-400 submarines was just completed a day ago, and it is being launched today, Kushina answered. The new submarine class the engineers were thinking of a year ago. You know, at first I thought they were crazy, creating such a submarine, but they actually pulled it off, Naruto said. Brother, you're home, Mito said as she tackled the Naruto. I am Mito, but only for a while, he said, chuckling at his sister's pout. How long will you stay? She asked. About a week. I do have a war to win, you know, Naruto said. About the war? So how many nations know of our existence? Kushina asked. Naruto sighed. Only the Fire Nation, I believe. The Earth Kingdom doesn't have a clue, and we just took the South Pole not too long ago, Naruto answered. Kushina nodded. Well, I will attend the launch ceremony, but I have to tell you something, Naruto said, and activated his Rinnegan. This earned a gasp from his mother and sister. He then started to explain about how he obtained the eyes, their ancestor, and such. Kushina was shocked along with Mito. However, a soldier rushed in. Sir, our forces have found the Avatar. It seems like he is heading towards the Fire Nation, for what we do not know. The soldier relayed the message. Naruto nodded. It seems like I must leave now, Naruto said with a sigh. But you just got here, big brother, Mito yelled. I know, but the next time I come I will stay for a longer time, Naruto said while messing up her hair. Kushina smiled. She really loved her children and could only wish that Minato was here to see them grow up. I will return soon. Now, Mito, I want you to study hard. I will need a commander soon on the battlefield, he said with a smile. Naruto turned around and left the palace. For now he had a war to win. 6 hours later, Naruto's plane landed on the carrier Shinano. He got out and went straight to the bridge of the carrier. The captain of the ship saluted him, to which Naruto returned a nod. Where is the Avatar now? Naruto asked. Sir, one of our recon plans is tailing him. He is keeping tabs on him, and also it appears that there's a Fire Nation ship following him, the captain informed. Good, and make sure you follow him and do not send any fighters to attack him. Remember, he is an airbender and can bring down our planes, Naruto ordered, and the captain nodded. This wasn't Naruto's whole fleet, as he only had his battleship, 4 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and the supercarrier Shinano. They soon noticed that there was a Fire Nation blockade. Sir, there is a Fire Nation blockade up ahead, an observation officer replied. Naruto thought for a minute. Then he smiled. Run that blockade, Naruto said with excitement. Soon all the vessels were going at their top speed. The destroyers went ahead to harass the enemy. With the Fire Nation blockade, Commander Zhao was ordering his ships to open fire on the Avatar, all the while ignoring the fact that Zuko's ship was out there and it took some hit. Well, that all changed when out of nowhere 2 fast ships opened fire from multiple turrets at his ships. He was shocked to see his ship taking such severe damage, but soon more of his ships went up in flames as 5 more larger ships came into view. Their attacks were ruthless. Zhao was forced to retreat with the remaining of his blockade fleet. Zuko, seeing his chances, chased after the Avatar at full speed. Sir, the Fire Nation ship is retreating and our recon plane has to return as it is running out of fuel. Also, we have lost track of the Avatar, but from the reports he is heading towards a fire temple, for what we do not know, an officer reported to Naruto. Naruto hummed for a while. Send this message to the other half of my fleet. You are to arrive at Arriveway to the Western Air Temple as soon as possible. That also includes the battleship Yamato, Naruto ordered. Some people in the bridge were shocked. But sir, don't you thinking that bring the Yamato is overkill? The captain asked. Naruto snorted. There is no such thing as overkill in war, captain. Tell them that any military ship they encounter, whether it is the Fire Nation or Earth Nation, sink it, Naruto said before he walked out of the bridge and to the flight deck to practice some of his Rinnegan abilities. He might know the attacks, but knowing them and knowing how to use them are 2 different things. With Aang had reached the island that he saw in his vision, and now he was talking to Avatar Roku. Avatar Roku, I don't understand what my vision meant, Aang asked, getting really frustrated by his inability to find answers on his own. Roku sighed. Aang, what you saw was Sozin's comet, which will appear by this summer. Originally I would have asked you to master all 4 elements by the end of this summer to stop the Fire Lord. However, there is a larger and a more deadly enemy than the Fire Nation on the rise, Roku said. This confused Aang more. What do you mean, Avatar Roku? He asked. Aang, about 300 years ago Avatar Kyoshi sealed away the island nation of Whirlpool, and from what the spirits have explained to me, Whirlpool was not pleased by the Avatar's decision. Aang, what I am saying is that Whirlpool will stop at nothing to kill you, but they also want to bring the world under their rule. You must stop them, Aang, so you must master the 4 elements as soon as possible. The Fire Nation would easily lose to the Whirlpool forces. My time for now is coming to an end. There is danger outside, I will help you this time, but remember, be aware of the one who wields the eyes of God. With that, the door to the room opened and Roku was met with a barrage of fire. He quickly deflected the fire and the temple started to fall apart. Quick, we must get out of here! Avatar Roku is going to destroy the temple, the fire sage that helped them said. Quickly they all ran out and got on Appa. First they need to head towards the Northern Air Temple. From there they would head to the North Pole to find Aang, a teacher for him to master waterbending. What did you mean by the one who wields the eyes of God, Avatar Roku? Aang thought. Little did he know that he would meet the one who wields those eyes very soon. 6 days later, Naruto sighed as he watched his men tend to the badly starved and beaten benders. This was the 5th camp they had crossed, and it seemed like there was no end to them. It apparent to Naruto that the bigger camps were the Fire Nation territory, and it also became apparent that some of these benders were here when they were children, most likely to brainwash them into fighting their own people. However, Naruto freed them and gave them all the same choice as he did with ones in the beginning. Naturally, they chose to join his side. They had nothing to go back to, no friends, no families, and all the nations were corrupt to the core. Naruto now had 200 benders in his command, with 100 earth benders, 40 water benders, and 60 fire benders who chose to question their own government, and for that alone they were sent to these camps. All the benders were very well treated and it took them no time to fit in. They were all pretty thankful to be broken out of those camps. Some recalled about their experiences in the camps. The constant torturing, experimenting, beatings, and exactions that occurred in the camps were pretty gruesome. It didn't take long before news reached the Whirlpool people of such stories. Needless to say, they were revolted by such barbaric acts committed by the Fire Nation, and it didn't take long for the press to start printing propaganda against the Fire Nation. The number of recruits started to increase, ready to fight the vile Fire Nation. It appears that my men have also found a camp nearby, a voice said tiredly behind him. He turned around and saw Akira. Really? Did they find any survivors? Naruto asked. Akira shook his head. I am afraid there were none. When we reached the camp, all we found was a large open ditch with burned core of prisoners. They burned them all to death, Akira said sadly. Naruto clutched his hands so hard that blood started to seep out. Naruto, calm down, it's not your fault. Akira tried to reassure Naruto. Not my fault? Look at these people, Naruto said while pointing at the benders who were being treated by medics. They have been through hell and most of them have spent most of their lives in those bloody camps. We could have saved them, Naruto yelled, his anger reaching a boiling point. Naruto, this is war and you know that we can't save everyone. As much as I hate to admit it, we can't save everyone. The only thing we can do is prevent such acts from happening ever again, he stated sagely. Naruto merely looked on. He would never allow such a thing to happen, not if he could help it. Akira, you know my next course of action, correct? Naruto asked with no emotion in his voice. Yes, you plan to bring the North Pole under your control for the oil reserves there, Akira answered. I want your fleet to patrol the Fire Nation borders. Seize any Fire Nation ship going in or out. Also liberate any and all of these camps. I authorize you to select any and all military targets for either destruction or capture, but your main goal is to isolate the Fire Nation. Not a single ship wearing the Fire Nation flag must pass through your blockade. Is that understood? Naruto ordered. I understand, though what of the Third Fleet? Akira asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What of it? He asked. The Third Fleet is at port and waiting for orders, Akira said with a straight face. Oh, sorry, guess I forgot about them, hee. Well, as you know, they don't have an admiral since the Third Fleet is pretty new, Naruto said while running his fingers through his hair. Why not your sister? She has a very bright mind and is some case smarter than you, Akira said, not noticing the twitch on Naruto's forehead. Well, what can you say? She did after all learn from the best, Naruto exclaimed proudly. Yes, truly Lady Kushina taught her well, Akira stated. All of a sudden Naruto got depressed and started to draw circles with black clouds over his head. Akira burst out laughing. Naruto might be a smart guy, but it was so easy to beat him when they talked about his sister. Well, mother said that she is sharper than me and is almost done with her studies. Who knows, maybe she can be the Admiral of Third Fleet, Naruto said sadly while looking up the sky. He didn't like the idea of his baby sister having to fight in this senseless war, but alas, it seemed like she was going to one way or another. I still can't believe that the Avatar is a child. He's only a year older than your sister, Akira said sarcastically. Naruto nodded. And to top it off, he's an airbender, and airbenders were known to be pacifists. In all likelihood, I doubt that the boy has seen death, let alone away, Naruto said. Just then a soldier walks up to them. Sir, you have a letter from your mother, the soldier said, handing him the letter. He quickly starts to read the letter, and soon his eyes widened. Akira noticed his change of expression. What's wrong? He asked. Mito was just made Admiral of the Third Fleet, Naruto said with disbelief. Akira had his jaws on the floor. Were they jinxed or something? But she's only 13. Are you sure that you read the letter right? Akira asked. It seems like she finished her studies way too early, Naruto said, rereading the letter. What about here military training regarding weapons? Akira asked. Not need, she is the best golden chain wielder in the whole clan, even better than our mother, and she was never good at handling weapons, Naruto said. He knew his way smarter than him, but he didn't that she was smart enough to have the position of Admiral at the age of 13. Then again, he got the position at the age of 16, and that was only a year ago, so who's he to question? Not only that, but she's coming here, Naruto said. Akira raised an eyebrow, but he quickly spotted a bit of red from the corner of his eyes. When did this letter arrive? Akira asked. Well, it was mailed about 3 days ago and arrived here day ago, Naruto said. As soon as he said that, he was tackled to the ground. Hey, big brother, Mito said happily. Naruto sighed. He could never make her stop tackling him. Mito, what are you doing here? Not that I am not happy to see you, Naruto said as he got off. Well, I would have arrived with my fleet, but it was too slow. So I hope to ride on a transport plane to get here as soon as possible to help you, Mito said, all the while keeping her smile. Naruto sighed once again. His sister was so cheerful all the time. Mito, I appreciate that you are tiring to help, but how can you help when your whole fleet is halfway across the ocean? Naruto asked sternly. Oh, well, I can help by making food for everyone, Mito said, tiring to defend herself. Naruto shook his head. Never mind that, now tell me, which ship is your flagship? Naruto asked. Oh, that's right, you see, my flagship is the Bismarck-class Bismarck. I also have her sister's ship, the Tirpitz, under my command as well, Mito said proudly. So they gave you our 2 latest battleships, eh? My Yamato class still is the largest and the most destructive than yours, Naruto said, causing Mito to pout cutely. Akira laughed out loud. Yes, well, my Iowa-class battleships are far better than both of yours. They are faster and have better fire control than both of yours, Akira said in an attempt to show off. He didn't notice Naruto's smirk. Well, we really don't need all that, seeing that our enemy's ships have catapults for main batteries. Also, did you forget that you have 2 of the Iowa class under your command? The other 4 are my mother's command, Naruto said, causing Akira to grumble smartass. Mito, since you're here, I want your forces to establish bases in Earth Kingdom territory. Use the airfield at Whaletail Island to airlift supplies and troops. While you do that, go along the coast of the Earth Kingdom and destroy any military installation. Also try to sneak some spies as well. We will force them to retreat inland since the coast would be a dangerous zone due to our constant attacks. Naruto ordered. Mito happily nodded her head. She would go through hell for her brother as would he for her. He always helped her when she was in trouble. She really looked up to her brother as a role model. What will you be doing, big brother? She asked. Well, my forces will be heading up north, Naruto answered. Mito raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't the Fire Nation be his first target? Naruto saw her confusion and chose to elaborate. The North Pole has massive oil reserves just like in the South. Also, I believe that the Avatar is heading there as well, Naruto answered. What makes you think that? Akira asked. The Avatar is just a child, so it is safe to assume that he still needs to master all the other elements, and since most of the Southern Water Tribe waterbenders are dead, he needs to go to the Northern Water Tribe to find a teacher. So really I am killing two birds with one stone, Naruto explained. Akira and Mito both nodded. Soon all three of them started to carry out their individual tasks. Fire Nation capital. The Fire Lord was furious. The naval blockade set up by the Fire Nation was utterly destroyed by an unknown enemy. Do we know who destroyed our blockade? He asked. Everyone was stiff as a tree. Finally, Commander Zhao stepped up. Sir, I believe that it was the Whirlpool forces. I saw the flags those ships were carrying, and it was the same flag I saw in the archives. My lord, their naval power far surpasses ours in every way. Their ships are faster and have better weapons. Our blockade stood no chance, Zhao said. Ozai was becoming more and more furious. Commander Zhao, I hope you can redeem yourself when you invade the Northern Water Tribe, or else. Ozai left the thread hanging. I will not fail you, Fire Lord Ozai, Zhao said as he walked out of the war room. Now then, what are the chances of the Whirlpool allying with us? Ozai asked. Sir, I believe that they won't ally with us. They have found most of those camps, which means that they will most likely fight against us, an advisor answered nervously. Send out a ship for negations to their capital, Ozai said, ignoring the advisor's answer. Soon a ship left port heading towards Whirlpool, however halfway through it was spotted. Sir, we have spotted a Fire Nation ship heading towards Whirlpool. Orders? An officer asked his captain. Our orders from Admiral Akira were simple. Destroy any Fire Nation military ship heading in and out. Sink it, the captain ordered. Soon the battlecruiser, Alaska, fired its 50 caliber Mark 8 guns at the Fire Nation ship, sending it and its crew to the bottom of the ocean. Target confirmed, sink, an observation officer said. Good, and make sure the other ships are also aware of our orders. Do not let a single ship escape this blockade. Let's show them how you really blockade a nation. Let's show those firecrackers to never leave their molten rock on an island, the captain said, earning cheers from everyone in the bridge. From that way onwards, the Fire Nation would never be the same for that day onwards. Zuko, as we know, was hunting the Avatar to regain his honor. However, there was just one thing that stood between him and his honor other than the Avatar. The Whirlpool naval forces had the Fire Nation in a tight blockade. The only ships the Fire Nation had outside of the blockade was Commander Zhou's naval armada of 400 ships, which were heading towards the North Pole. He knew that Zhou wasn't a fool. He would never commit any of his forces if there was going to be no victory. Zhou was going to destroy the Northern Water Tribe. What Zuko didn't know was that the Whirlpool forces were also heading towards the North Pole in hopes of annexing it. Uncle, how much longer till we reach the North Pole? Zuko asked his uncle, who was drinking his tea. Well, at the rate we are going, about a week or so, Iroh answered, taking another sip of his tea. With Naruto. Naruto watched as the remainder of his fleet arrived. Like ordered, the Yamato had arrived with 4 Akizuki-class destroyers, 2 Mogami-class heavy cruisers, 3 Takao-class heavy-class cruisers, 2 Fuso-class battleships. His fleet was now complete with a total of 6 destroyers, 9 cruisers, and 2 carriers, with one of them being a supercarrier, and 4 battleships, with 2 of them being the Yamato class, the Yamato and the Musashi. He had more ships stationed at Whaletail Island, but he figured that he had more than enough fire power to annihilate the North Pole if he chose to. "Sir, the special carrier is here," an officer reported after saluting. "Ah, thank you for reporting to me," Naruto said with a smile as he dismissed the officer. He walked out of the bridge just in time to see the special carrier he had ordered arrive. He had ordered it due to him having benders in his forces, and they need to train. The water benders had no problem since they were surrounded by water. It was the fire benders and earth benders who had problems. He couldn't let them fire bend or else he would rise his ships catching fire, and there was no earth for the earth benders to bend. His solution was to turn a carrier into a floating battleground. Instead of wood and steel, the carrier's deck would be all rock. This would also prevent the ship catching fire. He searched for carrier and found a hull of a carrier which was so be scrapped. He quickly ordered the engineers to repurpose the hull for his benders. Soon he went back inside the bridge and started to formulate an invasion plan for the North Pole. "Sir, our submarine group has reported a large buildup of Fire Nation ships near the North Pole," an intelligence officer reported while handing a report to him. Naruto nodded and opened up the file and started to read the report. "An armada of 400 and more Fire Nation ships. We have to put a stop to their mass productions of their ships. They might be no match to ours, but you can never be too careful," Naruto said to himself. He was wondering who to stick at the Fire Nation main shipyard, and he knew just who to send, but for now he had to conquer the North Pole. He picked up another file which contained pictures of the North Pole from the bird's eye view. He would be lying if he said he was not impressed by the massive city the Water Tribe had built. "Just so you know, I will be making the city a whole lot bigger, for more action." The city had massive walls facing the sea preventing any enemy troops from landing. It also seemed like the city was built in a depression point as it had massive natural walls all around it. He first need to destroy the walls in the front so he could land his troops, and he didn't just want to bombard everything. No, he need eyes on the ground to call for more accurate fire support. His benders will be very helpful into combating the enemy benders. Airlifting a few commandos will also be a good idea to hit the enemy from the rear. He sighed as he put the report back down. He thought about his Rinnegan. Apparently, like the Avatar, he could use all 4 elements, but he had a 5th one, lighting, and he could also use sub-elements like lava, nature, and many more. He still had to learn them, but he wasn't going to keep using his Rinnegan. He didn't want to rely on it too much since that would most likely make him overconfident, and that is a bad thing. "In 1 week's time we will reach the North Pole. I just hope we win with minimal losses," Naruto said as he gazed out his window. With Mito currently doing the job her brother had tasked her with, and so far she had destroyed 5 Earth Kingdom military installations. She had also established a base of operations within the desert of the Earth Kingdom, starting with an airfield. It was a perfect spot for an airfield that was surrounded by sand, a natural defense against earth benders. What she really had to worry about were two pesky sandbenders. Dame sandbenders attacking in small raids made it almost impossible for the engineers to build an airfield. They had found the sandbenders' hideout, and she herself was going to show them firsthand why she was called Golden Chain Master within the clan. "So that's their hideout, eh?" she said to herself. She was going to take them all out on her own, but she had stationed a few tanks and troops to prevent any of them from escaping. She started to walk towards the town. She noticed how the town was small and poor, but it wasn't really a town. It was a camp for mercenaries. They had no honor, no pride, they only fought for money and would eradicate them all. She soon stopped as she noticed them looking at her. Mito might be 13, but she had a body that older women could only envy. "You all disgust me." With that said, golden chains shot out from her back and started to cause chills all around her. They pierced their hearts, heads, lungs. Those who tried to escape were dragged back by the chains. Her troops could see the carnage she was causing, and truthfully they did not want to piss her off. She soon started to walk out of the town, but behind her chains behind her started to make a dome around the town. They overlapped each other until the town could not be seen, then all of a sudden the dome began to shrink and sink into the sand. Soon the whole dome sank into the sand and the town with it. In the place of the town was just sand. It was as if the town never existed in the first place. Well then, I guess that take cares of them. What do you think, Commander? Mito asked with a sweet smile. The commander could only nod. Well, I'd best be off and make sure that airfield is up and running. With that, she boarded her transport plane and headed back to her fleet. Holy shit, I knew that the golden chains were strong, but that was downright terrifying, a soldier said as he kept looking at the spot where the town once stood. Well, there's a reason why she is called the Golden Chain Master. Her chains are stronger than her brother and mother combined. She also have complete control over them, his comrade replied. Soldiers who doubt Mito's ability to fight had all their doubts washed away by her display of power. With Akira was possibly stuck with the most boring task. All he had to do was prevent any ship from leaving or entering, which the Fire Nation stopped doing after a few of their ships were sent to visit the fish. Right now he was relaxing on the bow of his ship wearing nothing but boxers. Hell, some of the other crew members were doing the same thing. Some were swimming and others were sleeping or relaxing. I know this is a violation since we are on duty, but hey, when you're the top dog in the sea you really don't have much to do, he thought as he took another sip of his orange juice. God, I love my orange juice, he thought. In the distance he heard a thunder's boom. Looks like another Fire Nation sent to the bottom of the sea, he sighed. When will they ever learn? He had captured a few islands from the Fire Nation to cripple their economy even further. His biggest catch was the takeover of an island with a massive gold mine. Not only that, but the island housed a secret Fire Nation research facility. He found plans for airships, and he laughed so hard when he saw those plans. His nation had made airships long ago before they were considered obsolete. He did found blueprints of a tank from which they firebenders could fire from. This again was useless against Whirlpool's armored vehicles since they actually had guns which could shoot projectiles that could cause massive amounts of damage. Also, from the reports he was getting from Mito was that the Earth Kingdom was highly unstable and that the Earth King was merely a puppet. Some group called the Daily is controlling the king. Mito also found out that the Daily was also a very secretive and elite police force of Boss Sing Se. What's more was that the Daily founded by Avatar Kyoshi, and the irony was in it all was that she created them to put down peasant uprisings against a corrupt government. So much for keeping the peace and balance. She bloody changed the Earth Kingdom into a constitutional monarchy. Whirlpool had a different type of rule. It was more like representative monarchy. The people chose representatives who represent the people's interest. The people, however, also had the power to remove a king or queen from power. That is mostly why the Uzumaki clan has ruled for so long, since they actually care for the people. This effectively neutralized the need for civil war and revolution. The very same Avatar that sealed Whirlpool away, she made a mistake sealing Whirlpool away, and it seemed she also made a mistake. She founded the Daily. It really didn't matter to Akira, since all the Daily were doing was to take more and more power from the king. They were tearing their own nation apart, and all Whirlpool had to do was give them a push. It worked well into Whirlpool's favor since they won't have to fight a united Earth Kingdom, but rather a divided nation. In a sense, Avatar Kyoshi helped them by setting up a failed government for the Earth Kingdom. Then again, all forms of governments aside from Whirlpool were failed forms of government. The Fire Nation a total dictatorship, the Water Tribes were just tribes, they had no real unite, and the Earth Kingdom was a ticking time bomb ready to happen. Then it hit his mind. They could feel the need for a revolution to overthrow the Earth Kingdom. This would allow Whirlpool to annex Earth Kingdom with having to really fight for it. It would be like a proxy war. Wait till Naruto hears about this, he thought as he started to laugh like a man. The men around him started to back away, thinking that their commander had finally gone mad. 1 week later, Naruto stood in the bridge of his flagship as he saw the Fire Nation armada approach the Northern Water Tribe city. He smiled and took a seat. Captain, order all ships to halt. We will let the Fire Nation weaken the enemy before we strike, Naruto ordered. The captain nodded and relayed the order. Soon all the ships came to a halt, and would remain so for the next hour or two. Soon Naruto spotted larger fireballs being launched from the Fire Nation ship onto the city. Well, Captain, the battle for the North Pole has just begun, Naruto said with a smile. He would let the fools fight, and when the time is right he shall strike. Naruto had ordered his fleet to come to a halt and left the Fire Nation and the Water Tribe fight it out, but he had a feeling that something would go wrong. He narrowed his eyes at the tallest building in the city, the palace. He was getting a strange feeling from behind the palace. He got up from his seat and stated to walk out. "Captain, on my signal you are allowed to begin the invasion," Naruto ordered. The captain nodded. Naruto soon jumped off the ship and landed on the water and started to run towards the city. He noticed that a few waterbenders were trying to stop the Fire Nation ship by turning the water into ice, but Naruto ignored them. Soon he reached the wall, which was still fairly intact from the Fire Nation's attacks. He then jumped on the wall and started to run to the top. When he reached the top, a few Water Tribe soldiers spotted him. "Hey, you stop!" a soldier called out, but Naruto ignored him. The soldiers approached to attack him, but they were all pushed back by an unknown force. The section of the wall Naruto was standing on collapsed, so he quickly jumped off the wall and used golden chains to latch onto a nearby building. Soon the fireballs stopped. Naruto wondered why, but then he noticed that it was almost twilight. Then he remembered what his water benders had told him. "Looks like these fire benders know what they're doing. Looks like I should hide for now," Naruto thought. What Naruto didn't know was that Zuko was in the city as well. With Aang. Aang had pretty much no clue as to what to do. The Fire Nation had sent an invasion force to take the North Pole for good. The North Pole did not have the resources to defend themselves against the invading forces, but with the arrival of the Avatar, some people started to believe they would win. That was before they knew who the Avatar was. After seeing that the Avatar was just a 13-year-old child, they were rethinking of their chances of winning. Aang didn't know what he could do. He would have to fight, but he knew that he would have to fight to kill, and there was no way he could do that. He was the Avatar, and as the Avatar he should value life above all else. "Aang, it's going to okay," Katara tried to reassure her friend. Aang just looked at her like she was crazy. "Okay? Katara, the Northern Water Tribe is under attack and I can't do anything about it," Aang yelled, frustrated by being so useless. "Not only that, but the water spirits also here in their physical form. So if we lose, the Fire Nation could kill them," Aang yelled once again. "Why don't you talk to the spirits, Princess?" you asked. "That's right. Maybe they could unleash some spirits to stop the Fire Nation Navy," Aang replied. Katara and you just looked at like he was crazy. "Soon you lead them behind the palace." Aang was amazed to see grass and to felt a connection to the place. He didn't know what it was. He saw two fishes, a black and a white one, going in circles. He stared at them and continued to do so until he felt a pull and was pulled into the spirit world. You got worried, but Katara assured her that nothing was wrong. It was then they were attached by Zuko. You went to get help while Katara tried to defend Aang. At fire, she trapped him in an ice spear. "You little twerp, you found a master, didn't you?" Zuko said, melting the ice. He tried to kill her by sending a fist of fire, but she dodged his fist. She unleashed a water torrent towards him, encasing him in ice. She thought it was over until the sun started to rise. Zuko opened his eyes and melted the ice once again and knocked her out. "You rise with the moon, I rise with the sun." With that, they grabbed Aang and fled into the snowy trench. Sokka-sun arrived and started to search for Aang with you and Katara. Soon the Fire Nation started to attack once again, but this time they rammed their ships against the walls and sent their soldiers pouring in. With Naruto. "So they started their attack, eh? I guess it's a good time to launch my attack," Naruto thought and launched a flare. With his fleet. The captain was double-checking everything. He didn't want anything to go wrong. "Sir, the Admiral has sent the attack flare," an observation officer said as he rushed in. The captain looked up and noticed the flare. "Launch the invasion! Get the fighters up in the air! Our first target is the Fire Nation fleet." With that, the fleet started to move towards the city. The fighters soon flew towards their targets and started to attack the fleet. Soon fighter pilots who were flying too low got hit by stray fireball. Realizing that he wasn't gonna make it, he did the only thing he could. He rammed his fighter into a Fire Nation ship, which soon exploded into a massive fireball. Soon other unlucky pilots also fell to stray fireballs and died with honor. The Fire Nation forces didn't know what was going on. Soon the planes pulled out and the Fire Nation soldiers cheered, but their cheers were cut short when their ships started to blow up once again. They stopped another ship, another fleet. The Water Tribe, however, thought that they could now win with the arrival of the unknown force. "Have the Yamato and Musashi destroy that wall for our landing crafts," the captain ordered. Soon the Yamato and Musashi trained their massive 18-inch barreled guns and opened fire. The result was terrifying to say the least. Where the wall once stood was nothing but a crater. Many of the Fire Nation soldiers that had managed to breach the wall were all dead. Soon the landing crafts were deployed. With Naruto. Naruto heard the massive explosion and smiled. That was the Yamato and Musashi, but now was not the time to celebrate. He looked up into the sky and noticed that the moon was almost up, and today was a full moon. A waterbender was at his strongest with the full moon. He started to make his way to the palace. He could hear the defenders moving towards the destroyed wall to stop his landing force, but Naruto had confidence in his benders. Destroyed wall. 30 seconds, get ready! The landing craft operator yelled. All the soldiers started to check their equipments once again. Some of the cold water had entered the crafts, causing the men to shrive. "A good cup of hot chocolate would be really good right about now," a soldier joked. Some of them started to laugh. "Kenneth, we got a city to take. Double check your weapons and equipments. Make sure you follow the benders your units are assigned to. They will keep us safe for the most part," the captain of the squad ordered. 10 seconds! The operator yelled. They noticed that the benders were in the crafts ahead, most likely to provide cover for the rest. Soon the ramp of the craft opened and the soldiers rushed out. Meanwhile, the earth benders raised a few walls to defend them from incoming ice the water benders were throwing at them. The whirlpool water benders countered by doing the same thing, and the fire benders melted a few sections of the second wall to allow passage into the city. The non-bending forcers soon started to open fire at the water benders, and they killed a few before the benders retreated. However, the moon was now completely in the sky, and it was then when the water benders unleashed wave after wave of water attacks. The water benders' walls were no match for the onslaught of the water attacks. Whirlpool's water benders themselves were at their strongest thanks to the full moon and tried to defend, but they were outnumbered 1-2. The fire benders really couldn't do much. However, the regular soldiers were doing pretty well by unleashing torrents of bullets at the water benders. Some fell with ease while the masters held back the whirlpool forces. Then all of a sudden the moon went red and the water benders couldn't water bender away more. The whirlpool forces started go on the offensive once again. With Zhou. "Finally, I have done it! For centuries they will call me Zhou the Moon Destroyer, Zhou the Spirit Slayer, Zhou who conquered the moon." Zhou praised himself. "Release the moon's spirit now," Ing said as he approached Zhou with Katara and Yu on his right with Sokka on his left. Zhou smiled like a madman. "I don't think so, Avatar," he stated as he brought a fist of fire near the fish, which was the mortal form of the moon's spirit. Ing soon backed up. "Look, you don't need to harm the moon spirit. Everyone depends on the moon, even the Fire Nation." Ing tried to reason with him. "He's right, Zhou, let the moon spirit go," Iroh said as he came out of nowhere. "General Iroh, why am I not surprised about your betrayal?" Zhou asked. "Zhou, let go of the moon spirit, or else I will do much worse than you could think of," Iroh yelled as he got ready to fight. Zhou thought for a minute before someone walked in. "You know, for a general you are pretty stupid." They all looked at the source of the voice and found a red-haired boy wearing some wired winter clothing which consisted of a large grayish-white trench coat. "Who are you?" Zhou asked. "Me? Well, since you asked so kindly I might as well introduce myself. I am Naruto Uzumaki, heir to the Uzumaki clan and next in line for the Whirlpool throne. Oh, I am also the admiral of the fleet who just obliterated yours," Naruto said with a smirk. Zhou's expression was priceless. Iroh and the Avatar group looked at Naruto with narrowed eyes. Naruto looked over to the Avatar. "So you are the Avatar? PFF, I knew that the Avatar was a child, but I didn't realize that you were midget. Nevertheless, I will deal with you later," Naruto said. Aang was almost furious that this guy shows up from nowhere and insults. Iroh meanwhile had his eyes widened hearing that he is from Whirlpool. Now then, Zhou, release the water spirit or else I will take your soul and send it to hell, Naruto said as he activated his Rinnegan. Aang noticed his eyes and then he remembered that Roku had warned him about the one who wielded the eyes of God and he saw those eyes in his vision before. Release it and maybe my forces will be merciful to the Fire Nation when they invade it, Naruto said, earning wide eyes from everyone there. Whirlpool planned to invade the Fire Nation? Wait, if you are planning to invade the Fire Nation then you're an ally, Sokka said. Naruto laughed. You thinking that I am an ally? Far from it, boy. I am a soldier of the Whirlpool and next in line to lead it. My people have been isolated and trapped by the Avatar for 300 years and long before it we were driving out by the first Avatar. It was also the Northern Water Tribe that drove our people of the South Pole, which was once our homeland. My goal, no, the goal of my nation is to bring the world under our rule. A world where there is no war, no suffering and no more isolation. No longer will the world have to depend on an avatar to save it. We can save ourselves and bring forth peace that will last for all, Naruto said with pure determination. The avatar is the one who is to keep the balance. Not us, Iroh said. I thought you would have understood, Iroh, but that doesn't matter. The South Pole, Southern Air Temple, Whale Tail Island have all fallen to us, and soon the North Pole shall be under our control. Let's see the Avatar defeat the might of Whirlpool, Naruto shot back. Zhou didn't know what to do. So after a few minutes of thinking he let the spirit go, but just after he let it go both of the fishes jumped at Naruto. Soon everything stopped. Finally you have arrived, child of Whirlpool, the moon spirit said. Naruto looked at the two fishes and noticed that everyone else was frozen in time. What do you mean I have arrived? Naruto asked with curiosity. You see, child, we were originally the spirits that guarded the island of Whirlpool, the ocean spirit said, shocking Naruto. What do you mean? No spirit has ever wanted to do anything with my people, Naruto stated. That is because the Avatar and the spirit Rava forbade any to do so. It didn't help that your people were incapable to bend, however we had guarded your people and your islands as long as we have existed. That all changed when the Avatar and some of the other spirits dragged us out of the spirit world and forced us to take a mortal form, the moon spirit said, shocking Naruto even further. With us in our mortal form we could be killed, and the Avatar used that to our advantage by not allowing us to guard your people and islands like we had done for a long time. Instead we were forced to stay here in the North Pole. These people only learned waterbending from us. However, unlike your people, they didn't thank us for protecting them. As a result, we do not help them, the ocean spirit continued. Naruto was shaking in rage. How dare they take away the only spirits that had defended his people for a very long time? It was also because of this that Avatar Kyoshi was able to seal your people away. Your people and your islands had no spirits that guarded them, therefore with the help of other spirits she sealed you away, but now your people are free and you are the one who wields the eyes of God. You can free us from our mortal form, but we shall not return to the spirit world but rather to Whirlpool and defend it like we did in the past, the moon spirit finished. Naruto nodded and asked them how to free them. Use your eyes and place your hands on us, with that we shall be free and leave to Whirlpool to prevent it from being sealed again once more, the ocean spirit answered. Naruto activated his eyes and placed his hands on the two fishes. Soon both of the fishes glowed before they turned into wet orbs which flew up into the sky and away to Whirlpool. Soon time resumed again once more. Everyone looked around and noticed that the two fishes were gone. Aang thought that it was that newcomer who did something. Where are the spirits? Aang asked enraged. Naruto looked at him with pure hate. They are safe from your hands, Avatar, but now it is time you pay for sins against the ocean and the moon spirits, along with what you did to my people. With that, Naruto got into his fighting stance. Naruto soon ran towards Aang with great speed. He quickly materialized black rods out of nowhere to end Aang's life. Aang barely dodged the incoming strike and his air bending to push Naruto away from him. Katara and Sokka quickly got ready to defend Aang. Iroh himself was getting ready. Zhou had run away like a coward. Please, I don't want to fight you, I am not your enemy. Aang tried to reason with Naruto. Naruto chuckled at that. Not my enemy? Hee hee. You are wrong, Avatar. You are my enemy, for what your past lives did to my people is unforgivable. In fact, you forced the moon and the ocean spirits to enter their mortal form and held them hostage, Naruto said as he went through some hand signs, unleashing a water dragon. Katara quickly sent wave of water to stop the water dragon. You are a waterbender? Why are tiring to kill Aang? He has helped your people, Katara asked him. I am not waterbender, girl, I am something more, Naruto said as he made 3 clones of himself. They all went through some hand signs. Fire style, fire dragon! With that, all 3 clones released fire dragons from their mouth. Iroh was shocked, but quickly overcame the shock and countered with his own flames. He can fire bend too? Sokka asked. Everyone was clear confused. How was this boy able to bend 2 elements? Only the Avatar can do such a thing. I was not bending, in fact that was not bending at all, but how would you know? The first Avatar stole my people's powers and abilities away from them. Had it not been for that fool, people would now have the ability to wield almost all elements, Naruto stated as he sent small fireballs aimed at them. They quickly dodged them and realized that this was not your everyday opponent. Katara quickly sent ice shards towards Naruto. Iroh unleashed a fire torrent towards him. Aang used his air bending to fuel the fire and speed up the shards. Naruto, seeing this, knew that he had to use his Rinnegan. As soon as the attacks were about to hit him, they were all pushed back by an unknown force. Wait, I thought for sure those attacks would have hit him, Sokka yelled. Naruto smirked. That would have, however, knowing that I can control gravity is quite helpful, Naruto answered with a smirk. He hadn't practiced much with his Rinnegan or chakra, but he had learned how to control gravity. Iroh then ran up to him and started to engage in hand-to-hand combat. While Naruto did have great power, he was not as experienced as the Iroh who was once known as the Dragon of the West, and even with his old age he was still an able fighter. Naruto coated his fist in lightning and was about to strike Iroh right in the heart, but was stopped by Aang. Iroh, seeing the lightning-coated fist, backed away. Sokka was doing everything he could by distracting Naruto, and Naruto was getting really annoyed by the boy. Shinra Tensei! With that, Sokka was sent flying back at insane speed, and if it wasn't for Aang saving him, he would have surely died. Stop this foolishness! You cannot blame Avatar Aang for crimes his predecessors committed, Iroh yelled. He knew that this boy was stronger than him. No, he was far stronger than the Avatar himself. Cannot blame? Are you a fool? Even if I do not blame him for the crimes his predecessors committed, I can blame him for abandoning the world 100 years ago like a coward. Tell me, Iroh, did you know that the Fire Nation had set up death camps to experiment, brainwash, or flat-out kill any benders that oppose their rule? Even firebenders are sent to these camps, Naruto said, shocking Iroh. That can't be true. I know that my brother is a fool, but I refuse to believe that he would allow such a thing, Iroh responded. Naruto snorted at the old man's foolishness. Then how do you think I got benders in my own force? Surely you know that Whirlpool is a nation that is not blessed with benders, Naruto asked. You forced them to join, didn't you? Aang asked in outrage. Naruto shifted his glare from Iroh to Aang. I freed them, Avatar. I gave them their freedom. Something they had wanted for the last 100 years. You failed them as the Avatar. You ran away like a coward, you are. But now you don't need to run, since the people themselves can change this world. No longer will they have to sit and wait for the Avatar to arrive and save them. My people were ignored by the past Avatars, and as such we had lived for the past 300 years isolated from the rest of the world, and for what? Just because we couldn't bend. We didn't among ourselves for 300 years. No, we stood united and built our nation in our time of our isolation, Naruto replied. He didn't notice Sokka getting appa red. The Avatar sealed you away because you were not benders. You had no place in this world, Aang stated as memoirs of his past life flashed in his head. Naruto gritted his teeth. So what if we couldn't bend? Naruto asked in outrage. Your people could not bend, therefore your people were only a hindrance to the Avatar whose job was to keep balance. Your nation had too much influence and wealth. That is why your people were sealed away. Aang replied. Aang was receiving memories from the past avatars. For that foolish reason you sealed us away for 300 years? What good did it do to the world? Sure, we couldn't bend, but we used our minds to develop in technology and diplomacy far ahead than the rest of the world. In fact, I would say the reason this world is behind in technology is because of benders who use their power to wage war on one another. We could have saved the world 300 years ago. Naruto yelled as he made more clones and started to do hand signs. Soon a water, fire, and a wind dragon started form. Sokka yelled at them all to board Appa. They all did, but you did not. Sage Art, 5-element dragon! Naruto yelled as the dragons shot forward and combined into one. The attack was going to hit them all as Appa was only 6 feet up in the air, but you got in between the attack. You! Sokka yelled as he saw the girl take the attack head on, and was completely thrown back. He would have jumped off Appa had it not been for Katara and Aang stopping him. Naruto looked up and noticed that the Avatar was too high up in the sky for him to reach with one of his attacks. So he amplified his voice with chakra. Once again you run, Avatar, like the coward you are, but know this: your time has come. A new age has dawned, and in this age the world will need no Avatar, Naruto said as the Avatar's bison vanished into the clouds. He turned, noticed that the girl who defended the Avatar and his group was still alive. So you're still alive, Naruto said as he walked up to her. She tried to run, but it was no use, her legs weren't responding to her. Naruto noticed that she had the same energy as the moon spirit. So you have the sum of the moon spirit's life in you, but that does not matter now since the moon and the ocean spirit have reverted back from their mortal form. Let me take that life away from you and end your suffering, Naruto said as he brought his hand and put it on her forehead and extracted the life she was given from the moon spirit. Her hair went from white to brown, signifying that she no longer held some of the moon spirit's life, and with that you died. Naruto turned around and started to walk away. Soon reached the front of the palace, and from there he could see the entire city. He noticed that some northern water tribe ships retreating, and from the looks of it there were mostly civilians. He gazed at the city and noticed that the fight was finally over as Whirlpool's flag was flying over a section of the front wall which was still standing. He could hear the cheering of his men and his benders alike. The only thing that was not damaged during the attack was the palace. Everything else was either turned into craters by his ships or had bullet holes. Soon he noticed some of his men running up the stairs of the palace. Sir, the city is under our control. The Fire Nation fleet has been utterly destroyed, a soldier reported. Naruto hummed. I want reports of our casualties along with the enemies as well. Use this palace as a field HQ and send a message back to the homeland. Whirlpool's flag flies over the North Pole, Naruto said as he started to walk in the palace where some of his men had already started to set up. The North Pole had fallen, and now he had to plan on his next course of action. He could attack the Fire Nation next, but their remaining ships would be an annoyance. He needed to take out the source of their ships. He spotted an officer and called him over. Send this message back home. Carriers Akagi, Kaga, Shokaku, Soryu, Hiryu, and Zuikaku are to be mobilized at once and make way to Admiral Akira's fleet, Naruto ordered. The officer saluted and went to carry out his orders. Naruto sighed. He needed to take out the main Fire Nation port that produced 70% the nation's vessels, and from the images he had received the port was massive. It was going to take a whole lot more than 100 dive bombers to put it out of commission for good. With 6 carriers launching a massive air raid, he was sure that the port would be destroyed for good. He would have just sent the battleships Yamato and Musashi to do it, but the port was inland. His ships were too big for the river compared to the Fire Nation's ships, and because of that the port was safe from naval bombardment, but not from the air. He would make it clear that Whirlpool reigned supreme in the sky and the seas. With Aang. Aang was pretty angry when he was forced to leave the North Pole, leaving people there at the mercy of Whirlpool's forces. Then he remembered what Naruto had said. He had failed the world and ran away at 100 years age. It was his fault for allowing the war to continue, and it was his fault that the people were suffering. He looked at Sakura, hadn't said a word ever since what happened to you. Katara was just looking towards the North Pole, which had no fallen to not the Fire Nation, but to a nation from the past. I need some answers, and I bet my previous lives have some answers, Aang thought. During his fight with Naruto, a few memories flashed in his head. Memories of his past lives, and he knew that they would know what was going on. So he started to mediate, and did so until he was pulled into the spirit world. Hello, Aang. Avatar Roku spoke. Aang opened his eyes and noticed Roku, but there were other people there as well. He ignored them and looked at Roku. Avatar Roku, I need some answers, Aang said with seriousness in his eyes. Roku sighed. He knew that Aang would get his answers one way or another. Aang looked at Roku, and Roku knew that Aang would get his answers. Very well, Aang, we shall tell you. Roku started. Aang was listening very carefully. The people of Whirlpool long ago, even before the first avatar, had the energy called chakra. With chakra, everyone had the potential to bend 5 elements. The 2 great spirits at the time did not like the fact that the mortals had such power. They could even summon the death god. So they chose to drive them away and either kill them or take away such power. After that, Whirlpool became very isolationistic and refused, as they called outsiders, in on their islands. That is where you could say the problem started. The Whirlpool Nation as a whole never had a single bender. This led to the nation advancing in other fields very rapidly. In short, you had a nation who refused to allow anyone on their island, but was far ahead of the world in terms of technology. They also had more influence than the Avatar, which never a good thing. Whirlpool was a time bomb waiting to happen. You have seen the Fire Nation and its advances in technology, but Whirlpool is far, far ahead of the Fire Nation will ever be. Avatar Kyoshi had no choice and sealed them away to prevent a future war that might happen, for even she feared Whirlpool's military might. Roku explained. So you're telling me is that Avatar Kyoshi sealed them away because they were a danger to the world? Aang asked. Roku nodded. You're kidding me, right? I mean, why would they be a threat when they wanted to be left alone? Aang asked. You see, they were the ones who you could say caused the unbalance during Avatar Kyoshi's time. They had surpassed all other nations in all fields except bending, Roku answered. I don't blame them for not like the Avatar. Kyoshi really messed it up, Aang said with a sigh. Roku nodded in agreement. He himself thought it was all a mistake on Kyoshi's part. I don't want to fight them, but rather try to be friends with them. They have the power to stop the Fire Nation. If I can help them see that what they are doing is wrong, then they will understand, Aang said like a novice child he is. Aang, the people of Whirlpool have been locked up for 300 years because of the Avatar. They will not be friends with you, but rather seek you out to kill you. You must stop Whirlpool, Aang. Only you can do this, for you are the Avatar, Roku stated. Aang tried to argue, but knew that it was true. He would have to stop Whirlpool no matter what. With Naruto. Naruto sighed tiredly. The few civilians that remained in the Northern Water Tribe city refused to accept and were protesting. He wasn't going to send in the military to put them down. No, that would only inspire them to resist more. He needed to show them that they weren't going to be harmed. Then it hit him. The moon spirit life he had taken from that girl. She looked like someone important. Perhaps he could bring her back to life in order to quell the unrest. He got up and went behind the palace to find the girl's body, and surely enough he found it. He did a few hand signs and touched her forehead, healing her injuries first. He then activated his Rinnegan and preformed a few hand signs. Outer Path Rinne Rebirth! Naruto yelled, and with that a large head sprouted from the ground. It opened its mouth and let the soul of you out, which Naruto grabbed and pushed it into her body. Naruto felt almost drained. Rinne Rebirth could cost the user its life if the user wasn't strong enough. You othered her eyes and got up. She saw the same boy who was attacking the Avatar, but didn't he kill her? Did she die? How am I alive? She asked the boy. Because I brought you back to life, Naruto said, shocking you. She didn't know anyone who could bring people back to life. But how and why did you do it? She asked him. Naruto sighed. You people refuse to listen to me, and I would rather not send in my forces to put them down. I would rather avoid senseless bloodshed. You were also blessed by the moon's spirit, and for me to have killed you would not go well with the spirits," Naruto explained. You didn't know what to say. One minute he was an enemy, the next he was trying to help her. "Why did you attack my people?" she asked. "I did it to unite the world and bring it under Whirlpool's rule," Naruto answered. "You just like the Fire Nation, thinking you own the world," she said with hate. "That is where you are wrong. Unlike the Fire Nation, we would rather not rule with an iron fist. I read your mind, and rest assured that you will still be the leader of your people, and you will also be a representative of your power to Whirlpool's king or queen. Your sister tribe has already done so. All we ask is for you to forego your identity as the Northern Water Tribe and become part of Whirlpool. I only wish to unite the world, for I believe that anyone can bring change to this world, and I also believe that we as a people can help ourselves. I don't know about you, but I will not sit and wait for an avatar to help us. I will bring change to this world, even if I have to do it alone," Naruto said as he started to walk away. Yu was now thinking about what he had said. Could they really change the world? Then again, why did they have to wait for the avatar to show up and fix their problems? She began doubting everything she had known. She then made up her mind and marched towards the palace. She entered the palace to find soldiers in strange clothing setting up strange equipments. She spotted Naruto, who was writing on a letter. She walked up to and coughed in her hand to get his attention. "Yes?" he asked. "We shall join, only if I am allowed to lead my people," she said. "That is fine, however you will have to obey the ruler of the country as a whole, and if you are going to lead your people, then that will make you a representative of the North Pole. Is that okay with you?" Naruto asked. She nodded. Naruto soon got up and prepared to leave. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I am switching tasks with my sister. Her fleet will arrive here in 3 days," Naruto said as he continued to walk. "You have a sister?" she asked. "Yes, I do, and do not take her lightly. She might be 13, but she's a capable leader nonetheless," Naruto warned her. She nodded and soon stopped as Naruto boarded a small boat which would take him to his flagship. Soon his fleet started to pull out. He had left a few men behind, but they would be called back once Mito arrived. The news of the North Pole being annexed was well taken back at Whirlpool. People were very optimistic about winning the war in a few years. Naruto had ordered the 6th carrier force to attack the main Fire Nation port that produced the majority of Fire Nation vessels. The port itself was located southeast of the Fire Nation capital, and he had to be at Whale Tail Island in a few days. He had ordered Akira to start taking the islands Anji, Jianghui, and Shujing. He had also ordered that Shattered Cove also be taken, along with Fire Fountain City. He wanted to close in on the Fire Nation by taking their islands one by one. It was a strategy called island hopping. To further damage the Fire Nation, he had set his sights on the Fire Nation colonies that the Fire Nation had established on the large landmass that was between the Fire Nation and the North Pole. He knew that the Fire Nation was a more advanced nation compared to others. He planned to force the Fire Nation to surrender by the naval blockade, and to add pressure he was going to take their islands, colonies, and destroy their military fortification. He did, however, find out something interesting through Akira's spies in the Fire Nation. From the reports he was getting, it seemed like that the general population was being suppressed by the Fire Nation's military. This would work in his favor, as Whirlpool forces will be seen as liberators. He had also ordered the spies to leak information about the death camp set up by the Fire Nation. He would destroy the Fire Nation from within. The Fire Nation world fall on it, no need to waste men and resources on an invasion. The main threat for now was the Earth Kingdom. His fleet would be useless since most of the cities and towns were out of their range, but his aerial forces would be very handy. Whirlpool had already established an airfield in Siwang Desert, and because of that they had obtained detailed maps of towns, cities, and military fortifications. For now he had to establish a point of entry for his forces. He looked over the map, choosing which target would be the least protected and easily taken. At first he was going to choose Omashu, but the city is very well defended and he didn't want to just outright bomb the city to oblivion. He spotted a place perfect for the landing, the Eastern Earth Kingdom base. The place was perfect as it had lots of forests, perfect to hide his forces, and had only 2 villages located there, both of them being civilian. What's more was that the Avatar was now looking for an earthbender to help him master earthbending. If he was lucky, he would run into him, but it doesn't matter. Once the world is under Whirlpool rule, the Avatar would have nowhere to run. He sighed and looked out the window. The sun was setting, causing its light to reflect off the water. It was a beautiful sight, but he knew that this was just the calm before the storm. His greatest challenge would be the Earth Kingdom. Nearby the Fire Nation port. The Port Xing was the largest port in the Fire Nation. It was also produced majority of the nation's vessels from civilian to military. It was heavily defended with up to 200 firebenders and had an armada of 200 ships anchored at port. It was safe from all types of attack. All except from one air. Off the south coast of the Fire Nation, 6 silhouettes of very large ships could be seen. These silhouettes belonged to the carriers Akagi, Kada, Shokaku, Soryu, Hiryu, and Zuikaku. These 6 carriers are the oldest carriers in the Whirlpool Navy. As such, they formed the first carrier fleet, but they have all been modified and rearmed with the latest weapons and equipments. They had been issued a mission and they intended to see through it. For now they were anchored and would stay anchored till the next day, when they would send a message to the Fire Nation and their Fire Lord that Whirlpool was able to strike anywhere on their molten rock of an island, and they could do it at any time. The flight decks were already lined up with planes. Those that could fit on top were inside the hangars below. A total of 414 planes would be launched tomorrow to deliver perhaps the most devastating blow to the Fire Nation, and by the end of the day the Fire Nation would lose all of its naval power. "Come on, clear the flight deck! The planes are about to launch!" A crew member yelled as he and his fellow comrades cleared the deck for the planes that were about to be launched. All they were waiting was for the sun rise. Soon the sun started to rise, and with that the signal to launch was giving. Plane after plane took off from the flight decks of the 6 carriers. The first were the fighters, which were later followed up dive bombers and torpedo bombers. They would attack in 2 waves. The first would be the torpedo and dive bombers. They would destroy enemy ships and land installations. The second wave would consist of fighters that were tasked with cutting down enemy soldiers that would survive. Another small group, which consisted of about 20 fighter bombers, was also launched. Their target was the Fire Lord's palace. The intent was not to kill the Fire Lord, but to rather put fear in his heart, knowing that one of these days a bomb might find a way into his palace. "All torpedo and dive bombers follow your flight leader and commence the attack when ordered," the commander of the fleet ordered over his radio. Soon the port was in sight. The ships were all lined up. A few were in the dry docks. It was still early in the morning, which meant that most were still sleeping in their beds. They were having such great dreams. Well, that is when one of the ships blew up in a massive fireball. "Dive, dive, dive!" the flight leader of a dive bomber group ordered. The pilots complied as they dived down. The dive bombers were installed with wailing sirens, making a terrifying sound as they dived down to attack. The torpedo bombers destroyed ship after ship. It was pure chaos. Soldiers were running around and trying to shoot down the planes, but they were too fast for them. Some of the unlucky workers were caught in the crossfire. "Put of that fire!" a captain of a Fire Nation ship's ordered, but it was too late as a bomb went straight through the deck and tore the ship apart by a massive explosion. "This is too easy. We haven't lost a single plane," the rear gunner of a dive bomber stated as he fired his machine gun, cutting down some poor fire bender caught in the bullets' paths. "Attention all forces. Our spies within the Fire Nation reported the Fire Nation building a new type of ship. The ship's size and armor can be compared to a dreadnought class, but its armaments are very primitive. Regardless, it is still a threat. Your orders are to destroy the dry dock this ship is docked at," the captain ordered through the radio. The Fire Nation having a ship like a dreadnought class is not good, even if it has giant catapults as its weapon. Soon the fighters appeared and started to strafe the harbor and the ground of enemy soldiers. Bullets through the soldiers, their armor providing them no protection. The wounded were crying out for help as their comrades tried to pull them out of the kill zones, but they were cut down as well. The harbor water, which was once blue, was now black and red. The remains of a few ships were floating, along with bodies, upon bodies of Fire Nation soldiers. The bombers soon spotted the dry dock holding the prototype enemy ship. To their shock, it looked so much like a dreadnought class, but it was only the hull. This meant that the ship was nowhere near completion and was easily destroyable. Bomb after bomb was dropped on the ship. A few ripped through the deck and exploded, causing the ship to tear in two. The gates holding the water back were also blown, causing the dry dock to be flooded. When the bombers were done, the hull of the ship was utterly destroyed beyond any repairs. The few Fire Nation soldiers that survived the bombing looked on as their prototype ship was utterly destroyed. Years upon years of research and pooling resources into their prototype ship, gone in a few minutes. The air raid lasted for 4 hours. By then the once glorious and behemoth of a port was now just rubble. Their armada was all but destroyed. Most of their fire benders lay dead either on the surface or with the fishes. There were uncontrolled fires throughout the port and the massive town around it, due to them all being built out of wood. The rising smoke could be seen by the carriers and men on board. The captain of the fleet soon sent a message. "Send Admiral Naruto this message. Air raid of Port Shing was a success. The first carrier fleet will carry out more air raids against other land installations. For no, we head to port," the captain ordered. The communication officer nodded and went to carry out his orders. Fire Nation capital. Nobody knew how it happened or when it happened. The Fire Nation palace that was at the very center of a large city was filled with craters. The Fire Lord's house was also destroyed along with the throne room. The Fire Lord was lucky that he was not at the palace during the attack, but his advisors were not so lucky. He was enraged by such an act, but also made him feel something that he had not felt in years: fear. That's right, Fire Lord Ozai was now fearful of Whirlpool and its military might. He wanted to so badly make Whirlpool pay, but he couldn't. The Fire Nation was in a tighter blockade ever since his daughter managed to run past it on a small craft. The Whirlpool forces tightened their blockade even more by sending 2 Vanguard-class battleships. I know that only one was built. Unlike the other battleships the Fire Nation encountered, these 2 twins were far more lethal than anything else. The Vanguard class is known as fast battleships, with a speed of 30 knots, only 3 knots faster than the Yamato class. If that wasn't bad enough, the people were not pleased with Ozai. Now he could care less about them. But he couldn't ignore them since 70% of the Fire Nation military is all but destroyed. He couldn't suppress them since he was trapped in his own nation. Was this the fate the Fire Nation had to suffer for unleashing such a threat? 2 days later, with Naruto. Naruto watched as the transport ship unloaded more men and equipment. He had a total of 1,000 troops, along with 300 tanks, 50 artillery pieces, and other supplies and equipment. He had ordered a base to be constructed in the forest a day ago, and it was coming along nicely. The first carrier fleet completed their mission and was now under Admiral Akira's command, temporarily. This was done so because Akira had no carriers in his fleet, and the first 2 won't be finished by the next week, so Naruto gave Akira command of the first carrier fleet. Other reports from spies within the Fire Nation have been quite helpful. It seemed like that the Fire Nation had the right idea with making ships bigger and better, but completely lacked the fire power to mount on the ships. Some other reports were coming in that the city of Omashu was attacked and conquered by the Fire Nation. Apparently a small army of firebenders marched from the Fire Nation colonies and laid siege to the city. The strangest thing was that the city surrendered without even putting up a fight. Naruto could not understand why they surrendered when they could have fought off the invading forces. He didn't really care about Omashu since it would fall just like the rest of the Earth Kingdom's city to Whirlpool's forces. For now he had sent out small groups of soldiers to scout out the nearby villages. There were rumors about underground tournaments that were held in a nearby village. He was going to attend one to see what they are like, and he himself was hoping that he could recruit some of the Earth Benders. If he was to win the ground war and have the support of this nation's populace, then he was going to need Earth Benders fighting for him. He was going to be kind to the cities, towns, and villages Whirlpool conquered. He would provide them food and aid, things that their king could not provide. He was going to slowly turn the people against their king and accept Whirlpool rule. He got up from his chair and walked out of the makeshift tent. "Commander, you are in command while I am gone. Your orders are in this file," Naruto stated as he handed the file to the commander. "Yes, sir," the commander replied while saluting. Naruto nodded and soon walked away and into the forest. He had some recruits to add to his forces. Underground Arena. Naruto sat down on the many seats in the arena. There were many people here and many were making bets. Naruto smirked and decided he would make bet as well. People were cheering and booing all around the arena as the earthbenders fought against one another. Then he noticed a young earthbender who appeared to be 13, but after he earthbended, Naruto could clearly see that he was using air. So the avatar is here? Makes sense since he needs an earth teacher, Naruto thought as he watched the boy face off against a girl who appeared to be blind, but the strange thing was that the girl looked familiar to him. Wait, she looks a lot like the girl I saved on Whale Tail Island, sisters perhaps? Naruto thought. He could tell that the girl was blind since she did not look into the opponent's eye, but she could still see her opponent. Naruto was wondering how she was able to do that, but as he looked at her feet closely he realized that she had no shoes on, and then it hit him. Oh, so she can see him by reading the vibrations in the ground. Kind of like bats use echolocation to find their target, like we use radar to identify plane positions on the map. How interesting. Naruto, though. He could tell that the girl was pissed at the boy, because he was using air bending to stay in the air as much as he can. In the end she was defeated, even if it was by cheating from the boy. Naruto got up and walked out. He had found his new recruit. Toph was having a normal day at her house, and by normal I mean prison normal. Even though Toph was blind, she could still take care of herself. Hell, she was 16 and her parents would not even allow her to do the simplest of things. Toph wanted to be free and see the world and if possible find her twin sister. Yes, that's right, Toph had a twin sister who was taken by the Fire Nation when she was just 6, but she knew better. Her family had sold her sister to the devil to save their own skin. Toph did not like her father at all. All he cared about was status and power, nothing more, nothing less. Her mother thought was different. She tried to keep the family together, but she could not. Toph knew that she could earthbend, but being blind was a severe blow to any bender, so she learned from the first earthbender, the badger mole. Since then she could through the vibrations in the ground and could also tell if a person was lying. When night came along she went out to fight in the underground tournaments, which she loved, since people knew her power even if she was blind. Today thought Sun New Guy beat her, and she was pissed because the boy was somehow light on his feet. As she was walking out she noticed someone was following her. You can come out now, I know you're there, Toph said with an emotionless voice. So you can read the vibrations in the ground to see, Naruto said as he walked out of the tree line. Toph's eyes widened. How the hell did he know that? Before she could say something he cut her off. I will be short and straight to the point. I want to join my forces, Naruto asked. Toph raised an eyebrow. Why would I do that? I mean, I have nothing to gain, Toph asked, but in reality she was pretty tempted. If you do, I can give you something you haven't had since birth, Naruto answered. Toph just scoffed at him. If you talking about my blindness, then forget about it. It can be cured, Toph said with sadness. Oh, but you see, it can be thanks to my abilities, Naruto said as he stated to walk forward. Toph tensed up a bit, but she knew that he was not telling her a lie since she could tell when people lied. Naruto's right hand began to glow, and he brought it up to her eyes. Toph felt a bit of pain, but it didn't last much long. Soon Naruto lowered his hand and she opened her eyes, and to her amazement she could see. She wasn't blind anymore. She looked at the boy who had cured her blindness and blushed. He was indeed handsome, especially that red hair of his. Why did I thinking of that? Damn! Get a hold of yourself though, Toph thought as she banished any impure thought. Now she was thinking about the offer he had given her. She could be free to see the world or stay in that prison called home. I will accept your offer only if you allow me to search for my twin sister. She was taken away by the Fire Nation about 10 years ago, Toph said. It was then that Naruto realized why she looked too familiar to the girl he had saved. Chapter end.
Now watch daily exclusive uncensored lemon stories and mature content, along with NSFW images, featuring harem girls characters from the fics. Access all this and more on my Patreon. Click the link in the description to explore.